everybody, and welcome to the 5th episode of the Coffin Corner Podcast. I'm your host, GoodNightPunk, and with me, as always, is my good friend, Richie. Richie, what's up?
What's up, buddy?
Hey.
Been doing a lot better after week one if I hadn't watched the Cardinals get embarrassed in person. But other than that, doing good. Happy to be here.
Yeah, that would have been rough. Especially doing it with a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, that was painful. It was my own fault for bringing her, but it's what kind of a good friend I am.
How was the reception of the people around you to her?
Well, let's see. To her right were more Chiefs fans.
Okay.
Behind us were some of our regulars because they're season ticket holders too, Cardinal fans. They're friendly though, so I mean they were polite. And then to my left were some Cardinal fans, but I didn't know them, so.
Gotcha.
It was, we gotta like Cardinal fans don't really get too overly worked up about their team. I mean, there's no real reason to start a fight when you're a Cardinal fan. We're never, that invested in our team, but it was disappointing.
I saw some videos of fights outside of the Philadelphia Stadium. Between Eagles fans and Eagles fans and Eagles fans and Lions fans. I'm just like...
That makes sense.
I don't know.
Philly fans are notorious for, being entertaining, I guess is the word. I mean, they threw snowballs at Santa Claus.
No, this was actually in Detroit. It was in Detroit.
Oh, this was in Detroit?
Yeah.
Wow, they're still Philly fans, though.
Yeah.
Comes with the territory.
I don't know why I thought since the Lions were home this week, they were gone last week, but that's right. They were at home last week, too. Crazy. Yeah, it was nuts. I'm like, I don't know why we're fighting. Just lost. Let it go.
Like, I understand your team loses and you're angry, and then, you don't have anywhere else to put that anger. But when your team wins and you're starting fights, I mean, that's just being a dick.
Oh, for sure. For sure. Well, yeah, so interesting week. Might as well jump right into it. So
Let's do it. Week one is always interesting because we think one thing's going to happen based off of 9 months of research, and then something else entirely happens. So yeah,
multiple something else's, and then I know that a lot of coaches and GMs are thinking the same thing, especially about their kickers currently.
Exactly. Yes, I am. Let's just dive right in.
All right. So this week's top 5 is top 5 teams you want to see more of after week 1, whether that's good or bad. So I preface that by saying that some of mine are not based on good. So who do you got for number 5?
So all of mine, actually, I had positive reasons to want to see more of them. Number 5, I put the Dolphins. They got a lot of weapons on offense. I wasn't completely sure that it would work out with Tua, but after 1 week, I'm pleasantly surprised, and I'm excited to see more of Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill and Tua, and see if they can really have kind of that high-powered offense that on paper they should have.
The plethora of running backs they have.
And they barely got any rushing yards in week 1 anyways, so yeah, that's
it's crazy.
But yeah, I'm excited for the Dolphins. Plus, they're one of those teams that haven't been good in a while, and it's just nice to see the Patriots lose. So I'd like to see the Dolphins have a good season and maybe make the playoffs, especially if it means New England doesn't.
I agree. I wish it was with Brian Flores, but what can you do? So
who do you got at 5?
My number 5 is the Eagles, because holy crap. I watched, I am a Lions fan, so early morning games, I watched the entire Lions-Eagles game, and I watched the highlights for the rest of the games throughout that game. But, man, was actually surprised at how good Jalen Hurts looks. I like I said last week, I didn't think he was any good. Not any good, but I didn't think he was worth all the hype. Well, he proved me wrong, at least in the running department. He was crazy good. at eluding our pass rush. Now, I'll talk about that when we recap the game, but regardless of what I'm going to say about the pass rush, he looked really good, and I'm interested to see how the Eagles do against other teams. So
Awesome. Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't get to watch much football week one, being at the game. So I'm excited to get to see more on Sunday. But looking at the stat line, looking at the highlights, yeah, Hurts looked like he played well. So
well, I mean, he was the leading rusher with 90 yards. So
yeah.
not leading rusher, he had the most carries. He had 17 carries for 90 yards. Miles
Which
Sanders.
should be expected. I expect him to be a lot like Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, it was crazy. So
So my number 4, and it's funny you put Philly on there because they're in the Commanders division. I also put one of our division mates on there. I put the Giants. I was pleasantly, well, let me preface this by saying, obviously they're division rivals, so I don't like them.
mm-hmm.
But it's nice to see Saquon Barkley back healthy, played very well.
Oh, yeah.
I
Nasty.
like Brian DeBall coming from Buffalo. So, them getting that surprise win over Tennessee. I think the offense is going to be a lot more exciting to watch. I want to see if Saquon can keep that up. Is he going to break down? Is he going to stay healthy? If he stays healthy, I mean, a week like that, the dude could be an MVP candidate. So, yeah, I'm excited to see the Giants the rest of the way and see if they can keep up the momentum from week one. And obviously, I'm rooting for them to lose when they play the Commanders, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to enjoy watching them when they play the other teams.
Let me ask you this as far as divisions go. I don't like seeing my division win if it means it's going to push us out of first place. But what I do like about when my division wins is the fact that if I'm winning in my division against those teams who are winning out of the division, it just proves it's just more fuel to the fire when you say your team is good, right? Because if your team's, ends up 4-2 or 5-1 in a division where 3 people are going to the playoffs, that pretty much says how good your team is, right? So I like to root for those teams, but I don't like.
I'll say this,
unless it's the Packers.
There's 2 caveats. The first one is if the Commanders go 5-1 in the division, but those are only 5 wins, I don't care if they came against the division. I still think my team sucks.
Well, I can agree with that because
yeah.
I think it was 3 years ago, the Lions were 5-1 in their division and had like 6 wins total.
Yeah, at that point, it's like, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what you do in the division. You're still a shitty team. The other caveat is, if I believed the Commanders were a playoff team or competing for the Super Bowl, then I would want my division to lose at all times. But this year, I don't feel, even after week 1, I don't feel like we're a playoff team. So it's like, all right, Philly's doing great. Dak got hurt. I hate the Cowboys, so that just makes me happy. But the Giants, the Eagles, it's like, you know what? If they do well this year, that's fine. If come week 10 the Commanders are 7-3, and then I'll have a different tune. But I just don't believe we're quite there yet. I think we're making progress. So
gotcha.
That's why I include the Giants on my list.
Number 4 for me is the Falcons. They didn't win this past week, but what was the final score in that game? 27-26.
Close one.
Close game with the Saints. It was that was a crazy good game, and I believe didn't they miss a field goal to win the game, or am I thinking of a different game?
I know
there were so many of them. Will Lutz was 2 for 3, but that doesn't mean that happened at the end of the game. All I know is that was the New
Orleans
kicker.
Kicked a 51-yard field goal with 19 seconds left to win the game.
Oh, that's right.
The Falcons were very close to winning.
Hold on, I'm looking at end of the game. That's what it was. End of the game, 2 seconds left. Young Hung Koo went for the win and had his kick blocked. So his field goal was blocked. They were literally a 63-yard field goal away from winning that game. So
I don't know if that's that close, being a 63-yarder.
Yeah, I just looked at the length and I'm like, hey, that even if they didn't block it, that's not a for sure thing. But anyways, the Falcons played really well. And just surprisingly, with Marcus Mariota at quarterback, which I thought was not going to go well, he actually played the game decently well. He didn't give up. I mean, he had 2 fumbles and one of them lost. But no touchdowns, no interceptions. So game management there, but they did pretty well. So I'm looking to see if they keep that up or if that was a week 1 we're hyped thing. Oh, we are who we thought we were. So we'll see.
Oh, and even if it is and Mariota struggles, then Desmond Ritter's going to come in, which is always exciting to see a rookie quarterback. So yeah, I agree. I'd have the Falcons on my list too.
For sure. Who's your
number 3 for me was actually the Texans. I was impressed as hell with them taking the Colts to a draw. When you're a Texan, at this point, a draw is a win. It's almost 2 wins. I mean, good. That's awesome.
I couldn't believe they got to that, especially with Damian Pierce not running very well.
Yeah, I mean, that was good for them, man. So, and then looking at Davis Mills' performance, I was, not too shabby. I know we like to shit on him because he's Davis Mills, but if he can develop, great. Good for him. So, I'm excited to see more of them, to see if he continues to develop. Maybe they do have a quarterback they like. Obviously hope Damian Pierce gets a little more involved.
Yeah. We'll see what happens this next week. But yeah, that was an interesting outcome. And I can't believe the amount of missed field goals to keep that game a tie. That was absolutely insane. Just keep it on
Sunday for kickers.
Keeping it on that kicker thing there. My 3 is I just want to keep watching this just to see if it keeps being the train wreck that it is. And it's exactly what I said it would be, which is why I want to keep watching it. Because the fact that somehow Matt Patricia is the offensive coordinator of the Patriots, Mr. Defensive Guru, which he wasn't that in Detroit, somehow being an offensive coordinator makes no sense to me. And the Patriots come out with 7 points and look terrible. So I want to watch them just to see if how long the Matt Patricia project in New England goes on, because you've got to believe that Bill Belichick isn't going to let that happen for long if their offense is not doing anything.
Yeah, I agree. They looked like crap in the preseason. They looked like crap on Sunday. I have nothing against Bill Belichick as a coach. He's had a great resume, probably the greatest coach in NFL history. But at the same time, I'm ready for something new. So yes, please continue to struggle. Please continue to be bad. Maybe he'll retire after this season, because his decision to put Matt Patricia as offensive coordinator makes me think he's gone senile anyways. So maybe he'll step away and we'll have some change in New England. But I agree. Sometimes I don't like I said, I don't hate the Patriots. If I had put a negative team on my list, it would have been Dallas, because I want to see them fail. But I do agree it is kind of fun to watch New England struggle after 20 years of dominance.
Right? Yeah. Yeah, well, I think Mac Jones' QBR in that game was like 13.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Back injury. Yeah.
QBR is 13.2 for that game.
Yeah, that's bad.
Go to your number 2. Who do you got?
My number 2, I went with the Steelers. That was another big surprise on Sunday for me. I didn't think they'd be terrible, but going up against the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals, I thought, all right, well, the Bengals should have this one in the bag. And no, the Steelers pulled off a crazy upset that absolutely wrecked Joe Burrow's day.
They really tried to give that game away in the second half, but they still held on. That first quarter, that first half was absolutely insane.
It shows you how good Burrow is mentally, like how tough he is. Like, he bounced back from 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles, 7 sacks. The guy just, absolutely getting destroyed, and still managed to, should have won that game. I'm sitting at the stadium, and I see that touchdown to Jamar Chase at the end of the game, and I thought, oh, game over, they won. Then I see it in overtime. I'm like, wait, what the hell happened? Oh, they blocked the extra point. Like, if it's so easy for Minka Fitzpatrick to block that extra point at the end of the game. Why didn't you do it to block every extra point? Like, extra points used to be automatic. Then you need to block one. My thought is there's no way you're going to block an extra point. They do. It's like, oh, why don't you do this every time? But anyways, I was surprised by the Steelers, and we've said it before. I want Mitch Trubisky to succeed. I want him to, have a chance. And he didn't play amazing, but he played good, respectable on Sunday. Managed the game, won the game. So I'm hoping he can keep it up. But that's another reason I'm excited to see how he keeps playing throughout the year if he ends up getting benched for Kenny Pickett.
So everything I've seen on Sports Talk this week is that Steelers looked good. Mitch Trubisky didn't. Imagine how good they might look if Kenny Pickett was starting.
If you look at, I put his stat line in there. Let me scroll down here.
Oh, I already brought it up.
21 of 38, 194 yards, 1 touchdown. I mean, he's not, like I say, he didn't look great, but...
So his completion percentage was a little over 50.
Hey, compared to some of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL around the league, that's not that bad.
All right.
But who's your number 2?
My number 2 is the Bills. And I put the Chiefs in the parentheses next to that, but we already saw the Chiefs in week 2 last night on Thursday Night Football. So I already know have a good idea of where. Let me just preface this by saying the Bills are on there because they were dominant in that Thursday night game we talked about last week. The Chiefs against the Cardinals were dominant. So I wanted to see, if they continued to just dominate. And the Chiefs against the San Diego ridiculously good defense last night managed to do very well. So
you mean Los Angeles?
Yeah, well, they'll always be San Diego to me. Against the Chargers defense, they still managed to do really well. So Chiefs, I'm pretty sure, I know that they're probably going to do well this year. Bills, I want to see their week 2 game and see if it was just as dominant as it was against the Super Bowl championship Rams. So it'll be interesting to see how the Bills do this week against who are they playing? They are playing the Titans. So another tough team.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Bills, the way they dominated the Rams, and the Rams are a talented team. I think the Bills are going to continue to dominate all year. The Chiefs, actually, after last night, I kind of think they're not quite on the Bills level. They dominated the Cardinals, which is a bad team. And up against the Chargers, who are a good team, besides that pick 6 that Herbert threw, I mean, the Chiefs would have lost that game. So I think it's more of, all right, the Chiefs are a good team, but they're not on the Bills level. I think the Bills might just be like a step ahead of everybody else in the league at this point. If they dominate the Titans the way they did the Rams, then yeah, they're basically going to run away with it.
For sure. It will be interesting. All right.
All right.
Number 1s for each of us shouldn't be that surprising.
Yeah, and it's funny. I wasn't going to put the Commanders on this list originally. Obviously, they're my number 1 though. And the reason is after week 1, which again, I didn't get a watch because I was at the game. I'm very curious for Sunday and going forward. Was this a change in them as a team where our offense finally has the weapons it's needed? So Scott Turner looked competent as an offensive coordinator, and our defense struggled as they do. Wentz was up and down, but we still managed to pull it out. And is that who we are, or was that just lucky and then we're gonna lose 12 of the games the rest of the year? I'm very curious to see how the Commanders are gonna shape up. And of course, they are my favorite team. I just can't wait to watch them play a full game on Sunday, since I got to watch like half a quarter in week 1, which sucks. But yeah, I liked what I saw in the highlights. Jahan Dotson looked good. Carson Wentz, besides the 2 interceptions, looked good. So it's like, all right, what's gonna, is the pendulum swinging back the other way, or is this who we actually are?
Yeah, we shall see. I'm excited to follow along there.
Yes.
Especially with the Carson Wentz story.
Everybody hates the guy. Everybody just absolutely hates Carson Wentz, man. Every media head just talks about how he's the worst thing in the world.
You
And
could have
I
Jared
don't
Goff.
listen. I don't get it. Like, yeah, he didn't. I wouldn't even say he struggled last year. Like, he struggled in the last game of the season, and they lost and missed the playoffs. And everyone's like, "Oh, Carson Wentz sucks." It's like, first off, that was one game. The dude was coming off COVID, and when he was in, like, it's so weird to me that everyone just thinks he's a bottom 5 quarterback in the league.
Bottom
Like, after
5? Get out of
Dude,
here.
yes, I read that somewhere. Everyone's like, oh, he had one good week in week 1. He's a and I'm like, guys, maybe he's just not as bad as you think. Like, but I'm holding out because the 2 interceptions, I mean, they weren't good. I wouldn't call them necessarily the worst things in the world. The second one was just a great play by Trayvon Walker, who looks, I mean, amazing. But yeah, it's like everyone just hates the guy. So I'm like, I just want him to be average. I just would like Carson Wentz to go out there for the rest of the year and be average to above average, so everybody can just stop all this hate for no reason.
Yeah, it makes no sense to me. Like, they also do the...
Yes.
I've lost my train of thought. There was a player I was thinking of with the same deal. I don't know. I just hate how people get on these throwaway people like that.
Yeah. Everybody just, I mean, completely shits all over them. And I'm like, you guys, I know it's been 5 years since Carson Wentz was an MVP candidate in Philly, but he's still like 29 years old. Like, he's still
I remember what I was going to say. I don't necessarily think interceptions are a indicator of a terrible quarterback. Because, A, look at Brett Favre. B,
Yeah.
Matt Stafford has thrown terrible interceptions his entire career. So bad. No, he's the best arm punter in the world. But, he won a Super Bowl. Everyone thinks he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And people considered him top 10 before that on Detroit. And every year he had terrible interceptions. So whether or not Carson Wentz threw some terrible interceptions, it's no indication that he's bad. There's plenty of people that throw bad passes that get dropped constantly by defenders.
The first interception he threw, he just stared down the receiver. So it's like, all right, that was poor play on his part. But that's one play out of the entire game. Mm-hmm. And the rest of the game, he played great. 4 touchdowns, 300-something yards. Like, I haven't seen a Washington quarterback throw 4 touchdowns in I don't know how long.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so there you go. That's Commanders, my number 1, and obviously your number 1 is who?
The Lions, of course. And if the second half of that game hadn't happened, then they would not be my number 1. But at one point they were down 17 points, and they only lost this game by 3 points against the Eagles, who are supposed to just stomp them into the ground. And the thing about the Lions is, normally they would roll over, like, constantly. If the Lions ever got down by 14 points in the past, they would roll over, and the game was pretty much over. But even down 17, even with the stupidest calls by our coach, going for a freaking onside kick in the beginning of the fourth quarter, which probably cost them the game, to be honest, because they gave them good field positions. They just ran down and scored. It was dumb. But anyways, Dan Campbell, despite the fact he made bad calls, it didn't discourage the team to continue to fight for him, and they only lost by 3 points. And it wasn't like they lost 17-14 either. They scored 35 points in the game. So, right. The offense looked awesome. They fought the entire game. The time of possession, deep diving into this game since I watched the whole thing, time of possession was really bad. The Lions kept going 3 and out in the first half, which was driving the Lions defense into the ground, being tired, and they still managed to play the entire second half after that and play it close, despite giving up 38 points. So, I don't know, man. Yeah, I am excited. Jeff Okudah looked like an actual cornerback in this game. everything looked good except for Jared Goff. Jared Goff, the first half looked like Jared Goff last year. The second half, Jared Goff seemed to have figured out something, but I still don't like that guy. I feel like we could win with anyone but him.
Well, he's maybe he'll figure things out and I like that Sunday when our two teams meet, it's the meeting of the number 1 overall pick in 2016 and the number 2 overall pick in 2016. I didn't even realize that. And they're both on different teams.
Well, that's why I always when I think about Goff, I think about Wentz, and because they were both that 1-2 pick. And I still think, despite Wentz not being on the Eagles and Goff not being on the Rams and their teams basically giving up on them, I still think Wentz is better than Goff. So,
yeah, I would agree too. I mean, I know Goff went to the Super Bowl with the Rams, but I don't think anybody would say that was him leading them to the Super Bowl. I think it was more of a defense and I mean, Sean McVay at the time was an offensive genius and new in the league and surprised everybody and made Goff look good. And then everybody figured out McVay's play calling and then Goff kind of showed his true colors. But still time for both, though. I mean, they're still both fairly young. So if they can each turn their careers around and our teams can have quarterbacks for 3 or 4 more years, it would just be nice. But anyways, we've talked about week 1, the games a little bit here but let's dive into them a little bit more in depth. I just went down the list from how we made our picks last week.
mm-hmm.
So we will start with the Saints and Falcons game, which we talked about a little bit.
Yep.
Impressive for the Falcons to put up this fight. That was my biggest note, was just I'm surprised they, were a missed field goal at the end of regulation away from pulling off the win.
Yeah. That was a close game, and I kept looking at the stats of that game throughout the entire thing just to see if they were going to pull it off because, they were looking good.
Yeah. One other thing, that caught my eye, Michael Thomas, 5 for 57 yards, but 2 touchdowns. Not a huge day, but for a guy that didn't play at all last year, it's a good day fantasy wise, and maybe it does show that he's finally healthy and he still can be that number 1 receiver for them.
Well, not only that,
monitor.
but Jameis Winston looked his way 8 different times, and the only one further than him was Jarvis Landry with 9 targets. So it's even Jameis Winston knows he's back and he's ready to be thrown to. So he only had 5 catches of the 8, but 2 of those catches were touchdowns. So yeah, there's good things coming for Mike Thomas, especially with Jameis Winston, who didn't really throw to him ever before.
I'm sure he was getting covered quite a bit, but I think Thomas is if he stays healthy, he'll finish as a pretty high receiver. I don't think he's going to be quite as dominant as he was a couple years ago, but he's still very talented and physically gifted.
Yep. The other thing that stuck out to me about this game is how I didn't think that Atlanta would stick with Cordarrelle Patterson as their main running back. But holy crap, 22 carries, 120 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too.
5.5 yards a carry also. Just fucking ridiculous.
They didn't add anybody to compete. I thought maybe they liked Tyler Algier, the rookie, but I guess they just really like Cordarrelle Patterson. So that's pretty interesting. I mean, good for him to finally, after not making it as a wide receiver and getting moved to running back, he's the starting running back on a team. So
I know that guy's tall and has bulky shoulders, but 6'2", 220. I mean, he is not built like a running back.
Well, isn't Derrick Henry 6'2"?
I mean, he's tall height-wise, but the 220, that seems awful low for a running back.
Oh, yeah. Well.
But it's working for him.
He's not Jerome Bettis, but yeah, it's working. All right, so next game, Browns at Panthers. I was really hoping that the Panthers would win for Baker. It was close, but unfortunately it was just another one of those close games. I believe the Browns kicked a field goal, with 8 seconds left, a 58-yarder. So, I mean, they booted a pretty long one to pull off that win, too. So, Baker got pretty close to getting the win. And, I mean, he didn't, beat the shit out of his team or whatever that quote was last week where
Yeah.
he said he wanted to. It's like he didn't go that far, but he almost got the win. I don't really blame him. I mean, he didn't play amazing. Let's see. I didn't put down his stat line. 16 of 27, 235, one touchdown, one pick. So, I mean, he wasn't the one interception. He wasn't that great. The thing that stood out to me, though, as I looked, Christian McCaffrey had 10 carries, and he had four catches. So it's like Christian McCaffrey, he's healthy. He's a dynamic offensive weapon, probably their best offensive weapon. Why isn't he getting the ball more? I was surprised by it. Cordarrelle Patterson got 22 carries for the Falcons, but Christian McCaffrey gets 14.
Because the Browns had twice the amount of time in possession of the ball than the Browns did. Or the Panthers did. It was 40 minutes to 21 minutes.
So
basically.
then when you're throwing, throw to McCaffrey.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't like I don't like it. I don't like not having him be the focal point. Like if you want to throw the ball, throw screen passes, or dump downs or something, but he's their most dynamic weapon. You got to get the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
But and then the other thing, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, they both had huge days. That's, I love Nick Chubb. Yeah, I don't know the Browns beating the Panthers. I don't think the Browns are still going to have a lot of wins under Jacoby Brissett. I don't know who they play this week. We'll get into that later, but I'm not super impressed by the Browns themselves. I just think, you win by 2. I'm just more disappointed that the Panthers can pull that out for Baker. I just love Baker's attitude. He's such a competitor.
Yeah. Hopefully that wakes their team up, because when your leading receiver is Robbie Anderson, that's kind of surprising. Robbie Anderson is a decent receiver, but the fact every year he's just a disappointment as far as me and fantasy goes. Like,
we had the 75-yard touchdown, so like you take that away, and I mean, that one play, everybody's stats on that offense looks so much worse. Baker would have had like 90 yards. So
8 targets. Yeah. He had 8 targets. The next was DJ Moore, and DJ Moore.
And you remember Robbie Anderson
half
tweeted out about Baker Mayfield before months ago. Robbie Anderson
don't want
tweeted
him
out
here.
saying, like, don't send us Baker or something. We don't want Baker. And then he ends up being the most targeted receiver. That's just funny.
Yeah, you gotta wonder if he did it on purpose.
Yeah,
Goofy.
maybe. But all right, next game, 49ers and Bears. I loved the highlights from this game of the rain. I love weather in football, so I mean that was just so cool to see. Just a downpour of rain, and
I think there was a video. I can't remember which Bear it was, where he goes sliding across the water.
That was Justin Fields. Yeah, that was after the win. Justin Fields did the little slip and slide maneuver.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Good for him. I put 2 notes from this game. The Bears, I don't think are better than people thought. I think they just got lucky. I also think Trey Lance is just terrible. I mean,
he did not look ready for that start.
No, he he ran as he is expected to run, but just very underwhelming from the 49ers to lose to the Bears. And watching the Bears, like I watched the highlights. One of the touchdowns came on a broken play where they got lucky. Like it's like I'm not overly impressed with the Bears. I just think they got lucky, pulled out a win at home. Very exciting.
Here's the story. Here's the real story there. The Bears win 19-10 while only having 200 yards of offense.
Yeah.
The 49ers had 331 and couldn't do anything with it. The Bears
I think they turned the ball over twice in the red zone, didn't the 49ers? I know they turned it over twice in like Chicago territory.
Yeah, that could be it. Yeah, because there was an
interception. There was a fumble in the first quarter, and then of course Lance's interception.
The interception happened at the 41. So that wasn't in.
All right. Maybe it was just the fumble then.
Yeah. Looking at it.
But yeah,
Chicago 16. The fumble was at the Chicago 16 in the first half.
Yeah. So
first quarter.
Very underwhelming performance by the 49ers. Nothing really from Chicago that makes me think they're any better. I did pick them, ironically enough. But I wasn't overly impressed. I thought the offense, it was pouring rain, But the plays I did watch with Justin Fields, I was like, oh man, it doesn't look anything like I thought it would. Like the last preseason game, the Bears starters looked amazing, and I'm like, oh okay, maybe this playbook is gonna be different. But I don't know, I was underwhelmed. And now they play the Packers Sunday night, and they are gonna get destroyed.
You think so?
Oh my god, yeah. We'll talk about that more later, but yeah. So I had to point out, man, I love football weather, as my dad calls it, because when he was a kid going to Bears games and there was always raining. So it looked like, and then my friends, we actually play fantasy football with them, Ed and Carol Brooks. They were at the game and they were soaked. So I was like, that would be a fun game to be at, just getting soaked like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
All right, Steelers Bengals. We talked about this a little bit already.
Steelers Bengals. Yeah, that one's not a whole lot to go off there. Besides, the only thing we didn't talk about was that T.J. Watt is injured.
Yes.
But it looks like it's going to be one of those short IR stints and not a full season, which is good because before he got injured, he looked really good in that game. So
yeah, well, he was Defensive Player of the Year last year, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
He was heavily favored to be it this year, so if he wasn't,
yeah,
he definitely was favored this year. But I believe if you're that favored, you probably were at least a finalist last year. So
yeah, I thought I could have sworn he won it. Yeah, I agree. It very lucky for them. He's only going to miss 4 games. Well, they said at least 4 games. He might miss 5 or 6, but they put him on IR for 4 because they already knew he's going to miss 4.
Right.
But we already talked about Burrow just having just a terrible day.
Well, one thing I want to mention about that is that the fact that they redid a lot of that line to keep that from happening, and it still happened. So a lot of questions in Cincinnati right now about whether all that investment into that line is going to work out or not, because it did not.
That was I put that down there. Sacked 7 times behind the offensive line, and that I mean, not all of that was T.J. Watt. I know he was wrecking them before he got hurt, but that's pretty bad when your focal point in the offense is invest money in the offensive line and you give up 7 sacks in week 1. So I think the offensive line will be able to gel. I know obviously it takes some time for linemen to work together and gel together, but I mean that's what the offseason's for. So
and then
not a good showing.
Then you have the Seattle Seahawks line with 2 rookie tackles looking like Pro Bowlers.
Yeah. Shutting down Bradley Chubb. Yeah.
Next up, you had the Eagles and the Lions. I'll just speak a little bit to this because I watched the whole game. Like I said, Jalen Hurts surprised me. Very fast, very agile. Also, the other note I had from that game, also very one-dimensional in that first game. He threw to what's his face? AJ Brown 13 times. 13 targets, and the next guy only had 4. And that was Dallas Goedert and Kenneth Gainwell, not even wide receivers. So if you shut down AJ Brown, that guy's going to have some troubles. Because if he's only staring down AJ Brown, I don't know where he's going after that. So
yeah, you watched the game. Did AJ Brown get all those targets early, or was he still completing passes to him in the fourth quarter? Because like
the whole game,
and that's like disappointing.
That was his number one target the entire time.
You think by halftime the Lions defense have been like, we're just going to shadow AJ Brown with put the safety on him too, like just double cover him. Because that's pretty obvious where they're going with the ball. So it's all right. Well, let's shut down AJ Brown, stop Hurts from running, and see what he can do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the next receiver on the Eagles was Zach Pascal with 1 catch for 7 yards on 1 target. Not a single other receiver had a catch. Devonta Smith, who a lot of people drafted for fantasy, didn't even have a catch.
I didn't even know Zach Pascal was on the Eagles. I completely missed that.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
But, yeah. Talk about Malcolm Rodriguez, because I have no idea who that is.
You don't?
No.
You watched Hard Knocks, right?
Yeah. Which
Rodrigo.
Oh,
the linebacker. Yeah, Malcolm Rodriguez. He played.
Straight up, I thought his name was Rodrigo.
No, they just nicknamed him Rodrigo for some reason, which has nothing to do with his last name. And I saw someone talking about this on Pride of Detroit, which is an excellent site for Lions fans. But they're like, it makes no sense that they nicknamed him Rodrigo, because normally nicknames are something shorter than your name. But Rodriguez is a 3-syllable name, and then you nickname him a 3-syllable nickname. It makes no sense. So, anyways, I thought that was funny. But Rodriguez played a majority of the snaps, over 70%. And he was in every single hole the entire game. Despite the defense being on the field so long, this guy is amazing. He's probably the linebacker I'm most excited to see play for the longest time in Detroit. Like, he is that good. And he proved it. All the hype from Hard Knocks paid off in that game because he was everywhere. And which is crazy because he was a 6th-round pick. Not to mention they had a 5th-round pick that was a linebacker as well, and he's on the practice squad. So I'm really excited to see what Malcolm Rodriguez does continuing to go forward. But the other Lion that I'm really excited about is DeAndre Swift, because holy crap. Split carries with Jamal Williams and still managed to get 144 yards rushing, while Jamal himself had 11 carries for only 28 yards. Jamal is that tough yardage guy, and that's like the main thing here. So Jamal Williams, tough yardage. Swift's just going to run all over you.
Were Jamal Williams 2 touchdowns? Were they like short yardage touchdowns?
They were within the 7 to 6 yards, I think.
Okay.
So I mean, they weren't like 1-yarders, but he's like the goal line back. But this is the first, and I can't remember the last time this happened, but they said that the year that this last happened, and it was early 2000s. I believe it was early 2000s.
Wow.
Last time a Lions running back got 100 yards in the first week of the season. And it makes total sense to me because of the fact that for a long time, into the mid-2010s, we were just looking for a running back that could get 100 yards in a game. Right?
Yeah, I remember that.
So he had 144 yards in the first game. That was huge. And the biggest part to that is he was the number 1 rated running back by Pro Football Focus for week 1. Despite people like awesome. Chubb having a great game, like all these other running backs having awesome games, number 1 rated. So I'm really excited to see Swifty out there again. Yeah, and the biggest takeaway I had from that game was that they never gave up. I know they lost, and that sucks. They never gave up. I did. Beginning of the 4th quarter, when they kicked that onside kick and they scored immediately, I was like, this game's over. There's no way. They're up. They're up 14 again. What were you doing? But then they brought it back within 3 by the end of the game. So I was amazed at the Lions in that game, and amazed at the Eagles because they were much better than I gave them credit for. So
nice. Yeah, I mean, being able to put up 35 points on the Eagles to hang in there, I mean, that's impressive considering how the Lions have been, for a while. You see them against a team like the Eagles, which a lot of people, especially now at this point, think they're going to win the NFC East. To only lose by 3, hey, that's good fight, and that's what everybody said Dan Campbell's instilling in this team is just a never say die attitude and
grit. That's the word, grit. They showed it in that game.
I just had an ad start on my. I thought you had popped a beer, but apparently it's an ad on ESPN popping a beer in my ear.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, I like the grits. All right, so next game, Colts-Texans. We touched on this a little bit. The tie, which for the Texans is fantastic. For the Colts, it's like, what the hell just happened?
Well, we almost had 2 ties in week 1.
Yeah,
Like that's
the
that's the
Steelers,
most hilarious part to me.
the Steelers got their win, but the Colts couldn't. The Colts had to come back just to force overtime, but then couldn't force a win. I look at this like the Texans. I'm like Davis Mills, not too bad. 23 of 37, 240 yards, 2 touchdowns. That's for him, for a guy no one expected to do anything. That's awesome. Jonathan Taylor, of course, blew up because he's Jonathan Taylor. But Michael Pittman in week 1, 9 for 121 yards and a touchdown. That's good. I'm rooting for Pittman. I was rooting for him last year with Wentz. He had some good games. Wasn't very consistent. Hopefully this year with Matt Ryan, he's a little more consistent. But yeah, that's basically all I had for this game.
Yeah, that's all. The only other thing I can say is that Rex Burkhead got more carries than Damian Pierce, who started the game, and more yards. Only 7 more with 3 more carries, but it'll be interesting to see if they split more carries going forward, since Damian Pierce did not produce like he did in the preseason.
I would understand if Burkhead had gotten catches, and that's why he had more touches than Pierce. But to actually have more carries than Pierce is weird. Unless Pierce, at some point had an injury. But look at it this way: Damian Pierce, his average on his 11 carries was 3 yards. Rex Burkhead's average on his 14 carries was 2.9.
Yeah.
So
neither of them looked great. Why? They'll just split carries again, and my pick of Damian Pierce is going to make him into like a running back 4 option.
Damian
in fantasy.
Pierce will, by mid-season, he'll be comfortably, getting 70% of the carries. It's just going to take a couple weeks, or maybe, I don't know, or maybe they are just going to, because Rex Burkhead also caught 6 passes, so maybe they're just going to use Rex Burkhead a hell of a lot more than anybody thought.
I have 2 very minor, unimportant other things to say about this game. Number 1, O.J. Howard, a week 3 cut pickup from the Texans, was their second leading receiver.
Yep.
And we talked about how he's a great tight end, and for them to pick him up, he's better than any of the tight ends they had. So they apparently knew that, and they're throwing it to him. The other is that the Texans apparently have a Jeff Driscoll package where they bring Jeff Driscoll in to run Wildcat formation.
Wow.
Or to run running back. I did not see the play, but I know that Jeff Driscoll had 1 carry for 5 yards. So I can't remember if the play was Wildcat or if they had him playing running back, but they have a Jeff Driscoll package.
Nice to see him getting a chance.
That's right.
Here's one other thing. Just glance at the box score. I didn't put this down because I didn't notice it at first. Brandon Cooks, 12 targets, 7 catches. Rex Burkhead, 8 targets, 5 catches. Then the next closest wide receiver, Chris Moore and Nico Collins, each had 3 targets. So it was either Brandon Cooks, check down to Rex Burkhead, or nothing. Like
or
that's pretty amazing. I did not notice that. 12 targets and then 8 to the running back. I mean, that is cool. I mean, that's like the Eagles with AJ Brown. It's like where they're going.
And look out for Brandon Cooks. Hope he doesn't go down. That would be bad for them. Who's next?
All right, Patriots and Dolphins. We talked about this. Dolphins offense looks just as good as everybody was saying it was going to be with all those weapons, at least in 1 week. Tua, 23 of 33. That's pretty accurate for Tua. I did not think he would be that accurate.
Yeah.
270 yards and a touchdown. Again, I'd love to see the Dolphins keep this up. It'd make them, exciting to watch and one more team to, shake things up in the AFC. And then we talked about the Patriots just looking terrible, and Matt Patricia's terrible, so shouldn't expect anything less.
Did you know Trent Sherfield is on Miami?
He was a Cardinal for a while, right?
Oh, yeah.
He was a 49er.
No, he was a Cardinal for like 5 years, like one of those on the edge of the roster things,
like Justin Bethel.
Yes, and then you would always get play time in like when people were hurt. Always did, okay while he was in, 10 to 15 catches a year on the Cardinals. Went to the 49ers for a year, and apparently he's now on the Dolphins. I just didn't know that. No one listening to this would even give a flying crap. But since we're Cardinals fans,
See, I thought, he was on the
name.
49ers last year. That's why I thought.
Yeah.
So he did 1 year in San Francisco before moving them on to Miami.
So it happens with those edge of the roster guys, but they always stick around. So
Yeah. Wow. He had 7 targets for the Cardinals in 2020. 7 targets all season. That's why it was his last year.
yeah, pretty much. Probably more than Andy Isabella.
Hey-oh. All right. Ravens and Jets. I mean, no one expected anything less out of this. The Ravens trounced the Jets. I'm bummed because I wish Zach Wilson was. Huh?
It's funny that the Jets are the only team last week that was like, they are who we thought they were.
Yeah.
Every other team were like, okay, all right, well, you're not looking as bad as I threw you in the dumpster before the season started, and look at all you guys. The Jets, on the other hand, they're like,
Well, I will say the Jets with Zach Wilson may be a little different. The Jets with Joe Flacco at this point in his career, I didn't expect anything out of them.
Oh, it just made me laugh. All the people that were like, so the Joe Flacco revenge game didn't go as planned.
Yeah, who thought it was a revenge game? Like, oh man, but yeah. One thing that stood out, obviously, Rashad Bateman did well. He is the #1 receiver now that Hollywood Brown is gone for Baltimore. But Devin Duvernay, 4 catches for 54 yards and 2 touchdowns. I got to look at Mark Andrews' stats to see how he did, because I thought Mark Andrews #1 target, Bateman would be 2.
He was the #1 target.
Okay,
he got thrown to
Andrews
7
was
times.
targeted. 5 for 52 for Andrews, so he actually did pretty good. But Duvernay being the touchdown catcher out of the slot was interesting, because I remember his name from last year when everyone's like, oh, this guy's doing great in training camp and preseason, like he might break out, and they didn't really do much last year. I didn't hear anything about him this year, and then week 1 he catches 2 touchdowns. So it's like,
well, if you
he's
take
breaking out a year late.
Rashad Bateman he said he did well, but honestly he did well once. He had a touchdown, but he only had 2 catches for 59 yards. And one of those catches was 55 yards. So he didn't do anything, really. He did 5 enough.
5 targets, 2 catches, yeah.
So, but, yeah, Rashad Bateman, they're going to need more out of him unless Duvernay becomes the guy.
I think Devin Duvernay, there's the chance that he can, I don't know if he'll overtake Rashad Bateman, but if he becomes a steady part of the offense, that's pretty good. I'm still waiting for J.K. Dobbins to come back. I need J.K. Dobbins back. I have him in like 3 different fantasy leagues.
Did you see Isaiah Likely's stat line? The guy that everyone was super high on coming out of preseason?
4 targets for 0.
Yeah. So Duvernay helping himself there, because Isaiah was the guy getting all the hype.
He was getting a lot of hype.
Yeah.
But interesting one to watch to see how Devin Duvernay does from here.
Also, Breece Hall did not look as good as Michael Carter did in that game.
Yeah, I see the stat line. He had 6 carries for 23 yards. Carter 10 carries for 60 yards. But Breece Hall, Michael Carter caught 7 passes. Breece Hall caught 6. You look at 17 rushes. Well, I'm even going to take Joe Flacco's 1 out of there, because that's 1 carry for 0 yards. Just means he didn't get sacked.
Yeah.
So 16 rushes to 59 pass attempts. That's tough for Breece Hall to do anything with, but yeah, his average on his 6 carries isn't great, 3.8.
But
it's only one game.
Ravens defense is usually good.
Yes,
so
very good. So I'm gonna withhold judgment, but just look at the Jets stats. Good for Corey Davis, 6 catches, 77 yards, but terrible. Until Zach Wilson comes back, there's no reason for me to pay attention to the Jets.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so Commanders, Jaguars. We talked about this. Wentz is I call it Jekyll and Hyde. I didn't call it that, actually. One of the Washington beat writers said that, because it's he was playing so well, 2 straight passes that were interceptions, and then came back to win the game. And it's like, wow, what a roller coaster. In fact, afterwards, I don't know if you saw this quote from Ron Rivera in his post-game press conference. Somebody asked him, how are you going to handle the roller coaster of emotions, with Carson Wentz this year? And Ron Rivera said, "I'll take antacids." So very, very fun. I'm curious to see how he performs going forward. I thought the Jaguars had a pretty good defense so for him to do that was kind of surprising. But maybe the defense is just not as good as I thought. We'll wait and see. Need a little more sample size, but at the very least, I'm looking forward to Sunday and watching him live. I've been excited about watching a Washington quarterback play since Kirk Cousins probably. Um, Speaking of Kirks, Christian Kirk, 6 catches for 117 yards. I think that guy might have actually been worth the money. Good. I liked him in Arizona. He got paid a whole lot, but he looked good in the plays I saw. Man, he looked good.
It's good. I feel like the Cardinals never. He was always like. There were a lot of times that he was the second guy, but he was always seemed like the third option on the team, even when he was the second guy, because Larry was there. So, given the chance to be the number one guy and getting that much money, they have to make sure that to give him a good chance to be that number one guy. It was nice to see how well he did in that spot. They didn't win, but
he played very well. He had some good routes, good catches.
Yeah.
I was also happy to see James Robinson back for the Jaguars. He missed all of last year. I believe it was all last year.
I was very happy to see what he did in this game. Being a dynasty James Robinson owner and thinking ETN was going to send him to the bottom of the depth chart.
He only had 11 carries, but 66 yards and 11 carries is pretty good.
Not to mention 2 touchdowns total. Not to mention Travis Etienne only had 4 rushes total. Yep. So it's very clear who the starter is.
Yeah, people thought ETN was going to be used a whole lot. He was barely used in that game. But yeah, as a Commanders fan, obviously we get the W. The offense throwing 4 touchdowns. Antonio Gibson running well, but catching a whole lot of passes. Terry didn't get used as much as people would hope, but he didn't need to be. For the first time since Terry's been there, we had other options. Curtis Samuel is healthy, played great. Jahan Dotson only caught 3 passes, but 2 of them were touchdowns. 2 of them were great catches. And he is the first Commander to win Offensive Rookie of the Week in Week 1. And that is not a joke based off of the fact that this is their first year as the Commanders. He is actually the first Offensive Rookie of the Week in Week 1 in franchise history.
That's crazy.
Very cool to see. I was worried when they drafted the first round based off of Josh Doxson, whose name was very similar to his, so that worried me. But Dotson, all throughout training camp, people were praising his hands, watching his 2 touchdowns, especially the last one. Great hands. So with Terry, Samuel, Dotson, Gibson out of the backfield, I mean, our offense, it might actually have the weapons it needs to finally be successful. And
eventually you're going to get Brian Robinson back.
I can't freaking wait.
So,
speaking of which, they posted a video of him working out yesterday, already doing agility drills.
Nice.
So they said when he gets off the NFI list after week 4, he very well may be back week 5, which is when I will be in Chicago for the Bears-Commanders game.
Hey,
so if that is his
that
first
week,
game,
that would be awesome for you.
It would be fantastic. Speaking of which, I will be in Chicago. I won't be getting back till Saturday that week, so we'll have to do the podcast Saturday night.
I hope I'm off work.
Yeah. Or we'll just I can record it on my phone in a hotel in Chicago.
Figure it out.
All right. So, Giants Titans. We talked about this one too. I was surprised the Titans lost to the Giants, but then you look at Saquon Barkley, 18 carries, 164 yards and a touchdown, 6 catches for 30 yards. That dude looked like he did in like 2019 again. I mean, that is just awesome for Saquon. Great player, been riddled with injuries the last couple of years. I like I mentioned earlier, I like Brian DeBall, so curious to see how the Giants go from here. For the Titans, I don't know. I mean, Derrick Henry didn't really dominate. So is the Giants defense better than people thought, or is Derrick Henry still got a lingering injury risk? It's something to watch. I didn't draft him in any fantasy league because I was a little worried, and I feel like vindicated after week 1.
Yeah, I don't know. It took a while for the Titans to get started last year. They got humbled in week 1 last year as well. So I wouldn't worry too much about it. But
Maybe they're just slow starters.
well, last year the Cardinals just trounced them in week 1. And then from then on, they just looked ridiculously good. So who knows what happens
True.
from there.
True. The other thing I noticed, and I'm trying to pull it up to see here, their leading receiver was Kyle Phillips. I went to look up. He is. What is his position? It doesn't say. Oh, he is a wide receiver. Okay. I was surprised that, Treylon Burks, Robert Woods caught 1 pass and only had 2 targets. Treylon Burks had 5 targets, 3 catches, but Kyle Phillips, 9 targets. Dontrell Hilliard, the backup running back, had 4 targets. Like, weird offense.
Where did this rookie come from? 5th round pick for the Titans this year.
Yeah.
Never heard his name until this game. I didn't, at least. I know people in Tennessee might have.
Slot receiver or something. Like, I don't know why he got 9 targets, but
No.
I'm curious to see Derrick Henry, 21 carries, 82 yards only, 3.9 average. Like, I'm curious to see how they bounce back this week.
Yep. It will be interesting for sure.
All right, we're gonna move on to the Chiefs and Cardinals game. My
Do we
first
have to?
notes, yeah. My only note, just pain, just all around pain. The Chiefs looked good. They, Patrick Mahomes had 5 touchdowns. I think they didn't run for one too. I don't think. No, they did. Pachenko got one. Isaiah Pachenko, their 3rd running back in like the 4th quarter, got one. So it was just a terrible game on both sides of the ball for the Cardinals. The offense looked unprepared, which what do you expect when they don't play in the preseason?
I was about to say that. Compare and contrast here. The Chiefs played their starters in the preseason.
Yep.
Cardinals did not play their starters in the preseason. And then what did Cliff Kingsbury say after the game at the presser? We need to work on our practice habits. I'm like, who gives them the practice habits? It's literally you. Like,
Yep.
How are they not prepared for week 1? You had all this time. You rested all these starters because you said it was going to make them ready for week 1. Yet somehow you had 11 players hurt, and everybody that was on the field didn't look ready to play football. It makes no sense. The fact that he and Keim got an extension last year, both of them for 3 years, makes no sense to me. Because honestly, Cliff Kingsbury should be on the hot seat this year.
Yeah, well, they had to pay him. But yeah, the Chiefs, they didn't miss Tyreek Hill at all. Juju's not getting as much work as I had hoped, but it doesn't matter. They're just spreading it out more. Mecole Hardman, Marquise Valdez-Scantling, Kelsey, Justin Watson last night. I mean, the Chiefs, that's just what good teams do. It's what the Patriots used to do. Patriots rarely ever had a number 1 receiver. They just had a quarterback good enough to make everyone else around them good. That's what the Chiefs had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're going to be fine. The Cardinals, the problem with the Cardinals is we usually start strong and then fade in November, December. Mm-hmm. If we're starting out like this is going to be a long year for the Cardinals. They are going to be bad. And then the other thing that pisses me off, I think it was their 7th straight loss at home or something.
Oh, they were terrible at home lately.
Yeah, and I'm driving 6 hours round trip to go to these damn games, and they can't win at home. Like, it's very frustrating.
Yeah, exactly.
Very frustrating. But all right, Raiders, Chargers. I no surprise here. Chargers, I think are a very good team. They're in a very tough division. Keenan Allen got hurt in this game, which really sucks for them. And then Herbert got hurt last night, but should be fine. But I think the Chargers, they look good. I'm a little concerned Eckler's not getting as much production as I hoped. I took him in the league. Yeah.
I have him. He was one of my keepers in one of my leagues. So
yeah, I'm a little concerned by that. But on the other side of the ball, the Raiders, Devontae Adams, 10 for 141 yards and a touchdown, as expected. He's Derek Carr's friend. He's going to get a lot of carries. Carr had 3 interceptions. Josh Jacobs only had 57 yards. I just don't believe in the Raiders. Everyone's hyping them up so much. I think the Raiders are clearly maybe not the worst team in the AFC West after what Denver did, but I don't think the Raiders are that good. Like I'm just because they added Devontae Adams, I'm not that impressed by them. Like he got a bunch of production.
Always been a middle of the NFL team to me. Even when they were doing well last year, they just seemed like a good team, not one of those teams that either is the last team into the playoffs or doesn't make it with a decent record. That's just what I think of the Raiders as.
I'm sure they'll be the exact same way like this season too. I'm not that impressed. Just because they had Devontae Adams. I'm impressed with Justin Herbert. It's funny because this is gonna haunt me forever. We took Chase Young in 2020 at number 2. We could have taken Justin Herbert. We didn't, and the dude looks great. Probably gonna be great for a while. Chase Young's been hurt, so no disrespect to him. Maybe he'll come back and be dominant, but when you need a franchise quarterback, and there is a franchise quarterback on the board,
and you don't take him, yeah.
Yep. So
I love Herbert too. That guy is super fun to watch play.
He is.
And you know what he remind? Well, we'll talk about it on Thursday Night Football. Remind me when we talk about Thursday Night Football to tell you what Herbert reminded me of last night.
All right.
That's a lot of remind minds. But
I'm guessing he reminded you of Stafford because he got a bruised rib and then went on to almost win the game, and that's a very Staffordy thing to do.
The fact that then you just said it. Yes, he played hurt, like very hurt.
That dude got speared like he got speared by Goldberg. It was, and then he missed one play.
There was one point where he was wide open and only needed 1 yard on third down to get the first down, and he just threw it into the ground instead of running for the yard because he didn't want to get hit or slide. And so it's 4th and 1 now, and on that I'm like, well, you guys are screwed. And then on 4th and 1, he throws a 55-yard pass down the middle. The guy's crazy, and I love his heart. I love that he's willing to play hurt, trying to win the game. But yeah, that was awesome. Anyways, go ahead.
It was very awesome. Packers Vikings. Just very happy. I wish I could have seen Aaron Rodgers pouting on the sideline during this game. I did see Christian Watson's drop, which that's so unfortunate.
It was the setup for that on TV was so funny to me because they're like everyone's been worried about who. Like they set it up there, like, look at this pass. Everyone's been worried about who Aaron Rodgers is going to throw to this season. Well, check out this Christian Watson. Christian Watson catch. And then you see him burning down the sideline. He's beat his guy. The ball comes into his hands, and he drops it. And I'm like, oh, wow, the sarcasm. That was the perfect lead into that. And then they showed Stafford on the sideline, like, cursing. I was like, oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah. Anytime I get to see Aaron Rodgers be unhappy, it's like Christmas. Justin Jefferson, 9 for 184, 2 touchdowns. That dude, it's funny. Cooper Kupp also had a big week 1, but if you think Cooper Kupp's going to finish as the number 1 receiver again, it's just very unlikely for him to repeat. Not that he's bad or going to have a bad year. Just it's unlikely for him to finish number 1 2 years in a row. If I had to pick somebody to finish number 1, I would say Justin Jefferson. Extremely talented. If Adam Thielen stays healthy, they can't just double and triple team Jefferson. New offense in Minnesota, so they might be throwing a lot more, and Jefferson might shine a lot. I think he's gonna have a big year. This also is a note I just wanted to add. This was the first week 1 where the top 4 receivers drafted in fantasy. So taken in order 1 through 4, Kupp, Jefferson, Chase, and Adams finished 1 through 4 at the top of the receivers. So just a fun. I saw that. I was like, that's kind of a fun little Easter egg.
That'll make all the fantasy owners happy for sure.
Yeah, I of course am an old person, so I took running backs mostly in the first round, and yeah, I'm regretting that. But yeah, Vikings, they look good. They look good. They might and watching that game made me actually think, man, maybe the Vikings can win the division. The Packers may struggle against them and other teams. Like the Vikings could very well pull off winning the NFC North.
I'd take the Vikings over. I would have taken the Vikings over the Packers before the season started.
It's hard to bet against Aaron Rodgers based off of everything he does. But like I said, I'm just very happy when he struggles or loses, or it's just anytime he's miserable, I'm happy. It's very yin and yang. All right, Bucks Cowboys. Speaking of when I'm happy, I'm also happy when Cowboys fans are miserable. So Dak hurt his thumb.
As bad as the Packers were, the Cowboys have even more reason to be miserable.
Yeah, because they have receivers. They looked like crap.
They have a singular receiver, and they still look.
Well,
like
they've
crap.
got Gallup's still out. Yeah, so they've got CeeDee Lamb,
who caught 2 passes out of 11.
Yeah.
2 passes out of 11 for
pretty
CeeDee
bad. Zeke and Tony Pollard didn't look that great. The offensive line for the Cowboys, everybody thought was going to be a problem. It is. I forget where I saw this, but somebody said, Dak injured himself giving the hardest high five in history or something. That's pretty funny. But basically hurt his thumb. This is the thing that confused me. Everywhere after, the injuries, all right, 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks. Then Jerry Jones, being, a 92-year-old man, is he'll be back in 4 weeks. All right, is he not as hurt as people thought, or is Jerry Jones just not an idiot? Which one is it? I'm confused here. You didn't put him on IR, which is even more confusing. Did they? They didn't put him on IR.
No, which is pissing off a lot of people in fantasy football leagues where you have to be with the IR designation to be on the IR in your league.
So, yeah, I wonder why he got dropped in one of the leagues I'm in.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. They're not going to put him on injured reserve. He had surgery, but Jerry Jones, we want him to be a consideration for playing for us within the next 4 games. The dude had surgery on his throwing hand, and you think it's going to be 2 games that he's going to... come on, man. It's just dumb. Just dumb team. But yeah, so they look, even with Dak, they look like crap. That's the best part.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing that stood out to me is Leonard Fournette got a lot of carries. I know last year Brady threw for the season. I think he threw the most passes out of anybody last year under Bruce Arians, who's now gone. Todd Bowles is the head coach, and I think Brady threw 27 times and Fournette ran 21. So it was actually a lot more even. So just something to watch as Brady gets older. If he's not going to throw nearly as much, kind of interesting to see what happens. But yeah,
great for me as a Fournette owner. He was my last keeper. I decided on about a week, not even a week, maybe 4 days before my draft. I decided to keep Fournette for a 8th round pick, and that's looking like a wonderful.
Yeah. That's a fantastic pick. I would have done that too.
Well,
that dude was going in the second round.
I dropped my pick of Kyle Pitts as a keeper for a 3rd round pick because I would have had Eckler 1st round pick, Mahomes 2nd round pick, Kyle Pitts 3rd round pick, and wouldn't have picked till the 4th round. I'm like, I got to get a pick in there somewhere. So I got rid of Kyle Pitts because I'm like, okay, he doesn't have anyone to throw to him. And then I'm like, who can I keep? And I'm like, well, Fournette's going to be the starter in Tampa Bay on a good team, and I only have to give up an 8th round pick? Beautiful.
No, that was a great choice because, Fournette, he's probably going to get 15 to 20 carries a week, and he's looking pretty good. Just got to stay healthy. Last game, Monday night, Broncos-Seahawks. I would have bet that the Broncos won this game. Going into it, I can't believe
we both got it wrong.
I cannot believe they lost this game.
I'm glad you wrote that as the number one thing because
Nathaniel Hackett is a freaking idiot.
Dumb. Just D-U-M dumb.
The play calling throughout the game was bad. He made Geno Smith look like a Pro Bowler. Which, I mean, good for Geno, but there's no way Geno Smith's going to keep that up. That's clearly just bad play calling on the defense. The offense didn't do anything. And then A minute 14.
Time management is the most important thing that makes me think this guy's dumb. You had 48 seconds, I think it was.
No, it was a minute 14.
And you let the time run down all the way to... No, because you can't run a minute 14 down to 20 seconds. I'm talking about the last play before they decided to kick the ball.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it was a minute 14 was on the clock.
What's the play clock? 35 seconds?
No, play clock's like 45 or something like that. Yeah, it's not 35.
Okay, well, anyways, they used the entire play clock and took it down to 20 seconds.
With 3 timeouts. They had 3 timeouts.
And then instead of letting Russell Wilson, who's done this his whole career, go for 3 yards on 4th down with actual time to use your timeouts to continue to try to win the game, you decide to parade your kicker out and kick an unbelievably long field goal. Like it would have tied the record for the NFL. And this is the part that just really pisses me off. He missed it, surprise, and then when the Seattle Seahawks get the ball back and just run the ball to run the clock out, he decides to use his timeouts. You've already lost, guy. What are you doing? Why are you taking these timeouts?
That was a 15-year-old playing Madden type move.
It was so dumb. You just prolonged the game to be to be an asshole. Like, why were you taking those timeouts? That's exactly what he
did. He was calling his timeouts to be a baby.
As if you didn't look bad enough with that call to kick it and not give Russell Wilson, you paid all that money and made the big trade for, a chance to win the game for you. And then you start taking timeouts to prolong a game that's already over. Come on, man.
Even if you want to kick the field goal, fine. Call a timeout to discuss it. Call a timeout to give your team time to prepare. Because on 4th and 3, you've got a minute left. You call a timeout. You miss the field goal. There's still 50 seconds left for your defense to try to get the ball back, and then your offense have some time. You ran it down to 20 seconds, missed the field goal. Now it's 15 seconds, game's over. Like, it should have
been a kneel down and the game was over. People should have been rushing the field at that point. But you're standing over on the sideline like,
crap out of him.
Time.
Well, even the refs, if you watch the refs, they looked pissed. Like, the refs were basically like, you idiot.
Yeah.
It was well, and here's the one thing that stuck out to me. He's from Green Bay. So he's a little bitch. That's, basically the only way I look at it. He's their offensive coordinator, and he learned being a bitch from Aaron Rodgers, and so now he's going to coach like that. And
we are not going to have many Packer fans on this podcast.
I don't care. But yeah, it annoys the crap out of me because I look at the Broncos and I'm like, man, that offense has some good talent. The defense not too bad. But with him in charge, they are going to be terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That guy, to do that in week 1 in your first game, to give everyone in the world in prime time that view of you because you're being that petty.
He threw a little tantrum, and that's
just not a good look, bro.
He is not long for the NFL. He might survive this season, but he's not going to be a head coach for very long. He's not right for the job. He's terrible. He's an idiot.
No. Oof.
I know.
All right, so Thursday.
I should have put him on them on the list because that's going to be fun to watch to see if he gets fired in the first season.
Oh God! I almost feel bad for Russell Wilson because I want the Broncos to do well, just because I've never had. I always enjoy watching the Broncos. Like back when John Elway was there, I liked watching when Peyton was there, and when now Russell's there, and I'm like, I would like to see the Broncos do well. But now I'm like, this guy doesn't deserve to do well. Not after that. At least not in my eyes. Maybe you can redeem yourself, but you looked like a child in that game.
No, I don't think anybody. I don't even think. Every Bronco fan has to feel the same. I can't imagine a Bronco fan being like, "Oh, I love the way he did that. I love that he called his timeouts to act like a little bitch." Like it's No, you don't do that. You lost the game. Just move on. Like, don't act like an idiot. Like, literally, that's what people do in Madden when they're throwing a tantrum. It's like, oh, you're beating me. I'm gonna call timeouts just to annoy you. Like, come on, bro. All right. So Thursday night.
Working into week 2 of the NFL. So we already have one game done, and that was the Chargers and the Chiefs. So 2 teams that had. The Chargers didn't win week 1, did they? Or did they?
Yeah, they did. Chargers beat the Raiders. We just talked.
That's what it was.
10 minutes ago. Yeah.
Yeah. 1-0 teams, 2 very good teams, battling it out in Thursday Night Football. Probably one of the better Thursday Night Football games. I mean, 2 weeks in a row we've had really good Thursday Night Football games.
Yeah, this one was really competitive. I thought it'd be a little more high scoring, but it ended up scoring 27-24. But I thought with these 2 offenses we were going to get like
still under
30s.
Still under the over-under, which is, I should have bet that.
Yeah, I know. Actually, yeah, let's talk about our bets before we talk about the game. So I was 3 out of 4 on my parlay. I felt the Chargers would cover 4.5. I didn't think they'd win, but I felt that they would cover. McCole Hardman, 35.5 receiving yards was the line on FanDuel. Dumb. He went over. I think he got like 70.
I wouldn't have taken that bet before this game. Looking at his first week, I wouldn't have taken that bet. But he ended up getting it, and he didn't have it. He didn't have it until like the middle of the third quarter either. So,
that's fine.
I mean, 4. I know it's fine. Yeah. It's just I watched the whole first half, and like they were using him, and he still didn't get the yards. So I was like, okay, well that's.
Yeah. Well, the heartbreaking one was Juju. His 55.5. I thought that he would get a little more usage, but I think he ended up with like 13 yards. But my fourth part that I hit was Clyde Edwards-Helaire over 15.5 receiving yards. Because again, I thought this was gonna be a shootout, so I went the over on all 3 of their receiving yards. Missed on Juju, but yeah, got 3 out of 4. So last week I was 2 out of 4. This week I'm 3 out of 4. Next week, hopefully I'll hit it.
Well, that's the 3 out of 4 last week, I think. I went to 2 out of 4 this time, and the only reason is because of that garbage time touchdown by an amazing touchdown, nonetheless, by Herbert. Yep. But I had 3 out of 4 until the Chargers were in like the last 4 minutes just trying to score points to bring it in. So the Chargers covered the spread at the end of the game, but the Chiefs are running a different secondary at that point. So, and Herbert, even Hurt, was able to just pinpoint amazing ball on 4th down. So I lost the spread. I was looking good on that spread for most of the second half, but I lost the spread. Patrick Mahomes, I had him under on rushing. His under for rushing was 17.5, so all he needed was 1 or 2 good ones. But he had -1 yards rushing yesterday, so that one hit. He didn't have a lot of rushing yards in the first game either, which is why I bet this one. But Austin Eckler, 25-plus receiving yards. It took him a while to get there. He was at 27 halfway through the 4th quarter, and I was like, he's one bad pass behind the line from not getting this. But in garbage time, he had a 25-yard run after a pass that kind of just got me to that 55 yards. So Eckler
garbage time counts.
Yeah, he got that 25 yards on that one. And the one that really killed me, and if this had actually happened, I would have won my parlay definitely. The spread wouldn't even have been a question. There was a play at the end of the game where Clyde Edwards-Helaire broke out, ran for like 50-something yards, and then got caught. And I want to know if he just always runs this way. The entire time he ran that run, he had both hands on the football. And I'm like, I always feel like that slows you down, but he got caught. And then
I think at that point, with the end of the game and it being so close, he was focused more on protecting the ball. Because I remember him sliding at the end of that play too.
Yeah, that's the other part that killed me. I'm like, just run in the end zone so I can have my money.
He was focused more on protecting the ball. He made the right choice for himself. He just made the wrong choice for you.
Exactly. There you go. So, yeah. So as far as thoughts for the game, Juju, I'm really curious. He had 3 catches in that game, but I don't remember, and I watched the whole game, I don't remember when he got them. I just feel like he was not targeted, or at least in a way that I can remember in that entire game. So it's kind of surprising
He only
to
had
see.
3 targets. Marquez Valdez-Scantling had 7 targets and only caught 2 balls. So MVS 7 targets, 2 catches. Juju 3 targets, 3 catches. Maybe throw him the ball a bit more, Kansas City. Come on.
Yeah, it was weird. I just don't remember him doing anything really in the offense last night.
He had 3 catches for 10 yards. He didn't do anything.
But I thought he had 0 catches. Like I don't remember his name being called at all during the game. So
very upsetting. But the Chargers have a good defense. So that's why I thought it'd be a shootout. I thought, all right, they're gonna have, 2 good defenses, but they should be throwing a lot, and the Chiefs did throw a lot. They just didn't throw to Juju. But I don't know. We'll see. I just it's only 2 weeks, but I'm starting to get concerned that the guy drafted in like 3 leagues is not doing too hot. We talked about Herbert's toughness.
Yeah, love it.
I can't think of the Chargers, again, the defense. And I'm really bummed. The Chargers looked, besides the pick 6, if it wasn't for the pick 6, I think the Chargers may have pulled this game out. Like,
they'll be fine.
Really close.
As long as Herbert's not injured, they're going to be fine. And the thing about the best part about them, stop auto-playing. Okay, let me close this for now.
ESPN's ads auto-playing?
Not just the highlights. Every other page I've clicked tonight, I've been on all kinds of pages. Mute has been fine, but this one keeps playing ads. So anyways, the other big thing for me, Keenan Allen hurt. Mike Williams last week, 2 catches. This week, 10 catches. Beast. Mike Williams stepping right into the spot, being just as good as he was last year. Somehow it didn't really do a lot last week, but if you were worried that he wasn't going to step it up, he most definitely has, and he looks good in that spot.
Yep. Yeah, he looked good last night. Yeah, I think the Chargers will be fine. I think maybe if Keenan Allen plays, they do pull off the win. But yeah, that's going to be a good division to watch with the Chargers and Chiefs. And I mean, maybe the Raiders and Broncos are worse than everybody thought, so it'll just be the Chargers.
Jones in trouble again. Pressure comes.
Ought to be a good season for the Chargers if Herbert can stay healthy. They said he's day to day, so he should be fine come next week. He's got 10 days off, but
yeah, that's the best part about
healthy.
Having that Thursday night game when that happened. He's got a lot of time to. And I heard it was a tear in his rib muscle, not in a rib. So.
Yeah. So
if it had been a rib, there would have been a real problem. But the fact that it was a muscle, they're saying there's a real chance that he'll just be right back at it.
I'd probably throw on a flak jacket and be good to go.
No.
So. All right, so that's Thursday night. We're gonna move into our Week 2 preview. How'd we do Week 1 in picks, Dan?
I really thought there was more separation between me and you as far as the picks went from last week, but they did actually.
We had a lot similar, so there wasn't a lot of separation.
No, well, there were quite a few that were not, and I believe last week we said, "Well, you take this one, and I'll take this one." They're like, "Okay."
Yes, I don't remember which one that was, but
I do
remember us doing that.
You got the win for the Bears pick, and I got a loss for the one that I decided to pick. So that sucked.
Okay.
So the current standings after week 1 for our picks are: I'm 6-8-1. We're gonna give ourselves both a tie because there was a tie in the NFL, so neither of us really lost, but neither of us really won.
And we need to address that for a second because you wrote down we both picked the Texans to beat the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember doing that, and I don't know why we would have going into week 1. That is so weird to me that we both picked Houston.
I don't remember it either. We need to go back and listen
to the podcast. Yeah,
but yeah, that's where.
I mean, either way, it didn't matter because they tied. But I'm like, we both picked Houston.
We've been dogging on
weird.
Houston the entire
and then we're like, they're
lifetime
going to
of the
upset the
podcast.
Colts.
They'll be fine.
They'll be good to go. All right.
So we went 8-6-1 in week 1. I went 6-8-1. The fact that I'm not further in under 500 after all those upsets that I did not see coming, I'm actually kind of happy with my picks.
Yeah,
So-
the fact that I'm over 500, I'm amazed because there were a lot of games that did not go the way I expected. So, All right.
All right, let's get into our picks for this week so we can talk
go.
about them next week. First up, we have the Dolphins at the Ravens, with the Ravens at home being the favored team.
I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I do think the Dolphins, especially after week 1, they do look fairly good, but I just think the Ravens are an all around better team.
This is the first one. I really just want to go against you on this one because of not wanting to pick the same things. And I honestly,
You gotta be careful when you do that, though. It's like if you just keep picking opposite me, it could work out.
But here's
great,
the thing:
or it could be bad.
this is not like picking the Jets against the Ravens. This
Oh,
is
it's
the
very
Dolphins, who did very well last week and have a very good offense.
did.
So
I just think the Patriots are a bad team. So the Dolphins beat a bad team. The Ravens beat the Jets, which are also a bad team. When I look at it, I think Lamar Jackson is one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL. The Ravens defense to me is better than the Dolphins defense. Yes, the Dolphins could win this game, but I'm not confident enough that I'm going to pick them. Now, if you feel differently, that is up to you.
yeah, I'm gonna pick the Dolphins,
All right.
not the Ravens. Actually,
I think and it's funny because I think it's
I'm gonna
it's
take
3.5 is the line. I think I actually bet the Dolphins to cover too.
there's a lot. The lines in these games are crazy to me. Some of them where that seem like they should be close. Teams are favored by 10. The spread is 10.5, and it's like,
Yeah, I did actually.
where are
I
these
did,
numbers?
I bet that. So I did a 16-team parlay. I bet on every game, and I bet the Dolphins to cover 3.5. By the way, if I hit on that parlay, I bet $1, I would win $29,000.
Oh, Jesus.
So
Nice.
if I hit that parlay, I'll be doing the podcast from like Jamaica next week.
All right, so I think that we'll both come out the same place on this one, despite both of these teams. Jets, Browns. Browns favored. Browns at home. Yeah.
Yeah, Browns.
Browns.
I was
easy.
impressed by what I saw from the Browns, and I was not surprised by what I saw from the Jets. There's no way I could pick the Jets. Now, again, anything can happen in the NFL, but Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I think, will run all over the Jets. So, yeah, definitely Browns.
All right, here comes the big one. Commanders at Lions.
Honestly, I think the Lions are going to win, but I'm going to pick the Commanders. Because why the hell not? They're my team. It's me against you. Let's pick our teams, and this will be one where we're different.
I'm with you.
But I do think the Lions showed so much grit and fight last week that I really do think they're at home. They're going to get the win. Plus, Washington hasn't started 2-0 since 2011, so that would be very unlikely.
If the Lions weren't at home, I might have a harder time picking them. But the fact that they're at home, I'm okay with picking them. I don't know who's going to win this game, but I'd like for the Lions to win it.
I think the Lions will win, but I will pick my team because it's against you. I know, and I picked the Jaguars last week, and it worked out as a reverse jinx. So I probably should be picking the Lions as another reverse jinx, but nah, I'll go with the Commanders.
All right, that works for me, man. Next up, you have the Colts and the Jaguars. Colts are favored.
I'm going to go with the Jaguars.
Well, once again, we're going to be on the same side then, because I don't. What did the Colts tied against the Titans, and the Jaguars lost to who did they lose to? Washington. Yeah.
Washington.
So
yeah.
it's. I think the Jaguars are better. Despite
I think the
record.
Jaguars are a better team than the Colts. The Colts looked very bad last week, and the Jaguars looked impressive. And I think, I think they will get the win this week at home too.
Yep. Bucks Saints.
Boy, this is a tough one. I forget the exact stat line, but Tom Brady has played the Saints 4 times since becoming a Buck, and I don't think he's beat them once. He's either beaten them once out of 3 out of 4 or 0 out of 4. So this is a very tough one. I don't like going against Tom Brady. I don't like picking against him because he's Tom Brady. Gosh, this is tough. Let me look at the line. I'm curious. So the Bucks are favored, but only by 2.5.
Yeah, it's close.
Oh, I'm gonna go with the Saints. I'm gonna pick the Saints. I'm gonna go crazy on this one and go with the Saints. I think at home, the Saints just shut down Tom Brady again somehow and get the win.
I am also picking the Saints because I think that they will do better. I
But tell you what, I was so on the fence. I'll go with the Bucks then, so that we're different. If you're also picking the Saints, like I could go either way, so I'll go with the Bucks if you're taking the Saints.
The Saints played well last week, right?
They did.
And the Bucks barely beat. Remember, the Bucks had a lot of field goals in that game. They barely beat a very bad Cowboys team.
Yep.
So that's why I'm going with the Saints.
No, like I said, the Saints seem to have Brady's number, but it's Tom Brady. I'm fine taking him. You know, we'll try to get some different ones.
Separation here.
Yeah. So
I mean, there's a lot of games here where I feel like there's going to be separations.
Yeah, but that's one of those ones that I'm close enough between the Bucks and Saints that I don't mind giving you the Saints in that one.
All right. Panthers at Giants. Giants favored.
Giants.
You're going to take the Giants, huh?
I'm going to take the Giants. I want the Panthers to win, but I'm going to take the Giants.
Well, we get to differ here again because I'm taking the Panthers.
I want Baker to win, but I don't know, man. The Giants beat the Titans. Panthers lost to Cleveland. Giants showed me more. Let's see if they keep it up.
All right. Next up, you got the Patriots at the Steelers.
Steelers.
Yeah, me too. There was no doubt in my mind that I was going for the Steelers.
And it's funny because the Patriots are favored, but
why? How?
Yeah, I don't believe in the Patriots. Well, it's Belichick. You never know he'll pull something out of his ass. But yeah,
what is the spread there? 2.5 points.
2.5. It's not very much. Yeah, it's not very much at all. But I think the Steelers can win that one, especially at home. And Najee Harris is playing. I saw that earlier. He's been dealing with an injury, but he is playing. So.
Gotcha. Falcons at the Rams. Rams favored.
Rams.
Yeah, Rams.
I
know they lost last week, but I'm not worried about them.
By the Bills. Yeah, I think they'll be fine. And not only that, but I think they're going to come out and want revenge and to prove that they're fine. So I think they may destroy the Falcons.
I'm with you for sure. There's an interesting one. Seahawks at 49ers.
I don't believe in the Seahawks just because they upset the Broncos. I think that was just coaching. I'm going to go with the 49ers.
I'm also going to go with the 49ers because I don't feel like the Seahawks just don't feel like they can keep up what they did in week 1.
No, I think that loss is on the Broncos and especially their coach. I don't think that was necessarily the Seahawks being that good. And the 49ers have to prove to everybody that, hey, we lost the Bears, but that was a one-off thing. So, yeah, and the 49ers are favored by 9.5. I don't think they win by that much.
I don't think it'll be that far apart, but
yeah, they'll win, but they're not going to blow out the Seahawks.
Next one's pretty obvious, I think. The Bengals versus Cooper Rush.
Yeah, Bengals. I mean, again, the Bengals are going to want to prove themselves after last week. So this should be a monster game for them. And yeah, I no disrespect to Cooper Rush. I know he played well against the Vikings in his one game last year, but nah, I think the Bengals are gonna win that one.
Yep, I'm with you. Next up, you got the Texans at the Broncos.
I'm honestly tempted to go Texans, but I'm going to go with the Broncos.
Yeah, I'm going Broncos too.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't be surprised. The Broncos are favored by 9.5. I would not be surprised if they outright lose this game to the Texans, just because that's how little faith I have in Nathaniel Hackett at this point. But, I mean, come on, man. They've got to respond, too, after that. Like, especially Russell Wilson is going to come out, and he's going to just start running the team himself.
I say I have no faith in their coach, but I have a lot of faith in Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I think Russ is going to start changing plays, calling timeouts. Like he's gonna just start doing his own thing.
He's just going to become the coach. If the coach can't figure it out, you got to do it yourself, and he can take the credit for it, despite everyone knowing that you are the one.
Exactly. At this point in his career, it's like, Russ, we're paying you enough money. You've earned the respect. Like, just go out there, and if you see, call a different play, call a timeout, do whatever you got to do.
Next up, you have the Cardinals at the Raiders.
It pains me because it means we're going to go 0-3 to start the year, but I'm going to pick the Raiders.
The Raiders. First off, I don't know if Rondale Moore's coming back this week.
He's not playing.
Neither
is Andy Isabella.
Zach Ertz didn't do anything. Are any of the corners back from being hurt? I don't think they are.
I haven't heard anything. Yeah, I didn't see that today.
I mean, if it's the same crew they ran out there against the Chiefs, there's no way they win. So,
no.
I'll take the Raiders as well and hope that they do win, and I'm wrong.
Yeah, because we play the Rams in week 3 in Phoenix, and we're going to lose that game. So if we lose the Raiders, we're 0-3 to start. And at that point, you're not making the playoffs. And yeah, you're just... And we're not firing anybody because we just gave them extensions. So it's just a lost year at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe next year they'll decide to draft and sign some cornerbacks, which everybody apparently knew except for Steve Keim.
No, we needed to take Trey McBride in the second round and then not throw him the damn ball in week 1, even when we're missing so many of our receivers.
He didn't even play.
Yeah.
He was inactive. What?
Just terrible.
Not even an injury inactive. He was just inactive. What?
Yep.
Anyways, Bears at Packers. Packers favored.
Packers. I think the Packers, first off, it's prime time. It's in Green Bay. It's against the Bears. Rodgers hates them. After losing last week, Rodgers is going to be pissed. They are going to annihilate Chicago.
I'm taking the Bears.
Okay. Thank you for giving me a free one.
I'm down to give you a free one. 100%. I would love to watch the Bears embarrass the Packers. I don't believe in the Packers. I don't believe in the Bears.
I would love to watch it too, but I'm not crazy enough to place a bet on it.
I'm not betting on it. I'm just putting it on my picks for this week.
Hey, that's fine. That means I'm going to win that matchup because there is almost no way in hell that the Bears pull off a win in Lambeau on Sunday Night Football. It would be a damn mirror. I think my dad might actually just burn down the house.
I also did not think that the Bears were going to beat San Francisco in San Francisco. So.
See, I did. I picked the Bears last week. So
yeah, same situation. Trey Lance. Oh no, but at least he has receivers. Well, here we are. Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Oh no, but he doesn't have receivers. So. Whatever, man.
He's Aaron Rodgers. Trey Lance is Trey Lance.
Who gives a crap? He was Aaron Rodgers last week.
There's a huge difference.
Well, yes, there is, but he was Aaron Rodgers last week, and he didn't do anything there either. So
Because he played the Vikings, which is a good team. He's playing the Bears, which is a bad team.
whatever. We'll see what happens.
There's a lot of factors that go into these things.
Listen, Bears win. That's my pick.
I hope they do. I hate the Packers, but
I'm taking the Bears. Now stop giving me shit for it.
all right, Titans Bills. I mean, I'm taking the Bills.
I'm already writing it in.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the Titans, I don't think they're a bad team after 1 week. Confused by who they threw the ball to, but I just think the Bills will still beat them. I don't think they'll dominate them in the way they dominated the Rams, but maybe they will. I don't know.
Yeah, for sure. Last game of the week, the second Monday Night Football game, by the way. Vikings at Eagles. Eagles favored.
This is a really tough one. Man. Yeah, this is a really tough one. These are especially after week 1, like these seem to be very two evenly matched teams. Yeah.
I'd put them not at the top of the NFL, but at the lower end of the good teams. You know what I mean? Like not middle of the road, lower end of playoff teams.
These are two playoff teams from the NFC. Definitely. I think the Eagles may win their division with Dak being hurt. But at the very least, both these teams are probably playoff teams. I'm actually going to go with the Vikings. I just thinking about it, the Eagles with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts running, but the Vikings just have more weapons with Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. I'm going to go with the Vikings. I'm not overly confident in it, but I'm going to go with the Vikings.
Well, I am also going with the Vikings because of the fact that, the Eagles were very one-dimensional, at least on offense. It was either... First off, let me just say this because I didn't say it during my observations of week 1. The Lions line was in the backfield every other play. The Lions' defensive line seemed like they were just happy to be back there and did not make tackles. They put an arm out and did not tackle the entire time they were in the backfield. Aiden Hutchinson should have had 3.5 sacks.
Yeah.
Like, they just did not tackle in the backfield. And then Jalen Hurts got away from the 1 or 2 guys that should have tackled him for a loss and then ran for 90 yards. If you got the Vikings defense can actually wrap up and tackle, then he's going to be in big trouble because he's only staring down A.J. Brown. And if A.J. Brown's covered, then he's really screwed. So I feel like until the Eagles show me more than beating the Lions, as fun as that game was, the Vikings, I feel like, showed more in their first week. So
yeah, I agree.
Because Green Bay's defense is good, but somehow the Vikings were able to beat that team. So I'm going.
Yeah, I agree. I think this is a close one. I'm tempted to flip to the Eagles, but I think we've got enough difference, so I'm going to stick with the Vikings because I do.
I picked the Bears. That's all you need. That's the only one you need.
I know that's a guarantee win for me.
All right. Well, that's it for week 2. Richie, once again, you have some sleeper. First off, did you go back and look at your last week's sleepers? Because I'm curious to see how they did before you give out yours this week.
I did actually. So I had Trevor Lawrence, and he didn't do that great. I had Kenyon Drake, and he didn't do that great. I had what was the receiver I picked? Now I gotta go back and look because I don't remember what receiver I had. Juju. Yeah, and he didn't do that great. And then Evan Ingram. So basically all 4 that I had picked kind of sucked. But I did it again anyways because it's just fun to try to find people who maybe have a chance to pop off. Even though, so far after 1 week, none of them have. But as soon as one does, I'm going to brag about it. So my fantasy sleepers this week, Matthew Stafford at quarterback. The Rams playing the Falcons. Maybe he's not that much of a sleeper, but when I was looking at some rankings, he was like 8 or 9. But playing the Falcons, and especially in a game where they may be motivated to put up a bunch of points and make a statement, Definitely an interesting one. Running back, I'm going with Jamal Williams for the Lions. One, because DeAndre Swift is dealing with a little bit of an ankle injury. They said he'll play, but maybe they don't give him as many carries. Two, because Washington just gave up a bunch of rushing yards to James Robinson and Travis Etienne anyways. So yeah, I think Jamal Williams definitely has a chance, especially if Swift can't carry the ball as often. Jamal Williams could have himself a nice big day.
And just to think anyways, Jamal Williams had 2 touchdowns with DeAndre Swift having a huge day last week. So it's not like even if DeAndre Swift is full go, that Jamal's not going to do well.
Well, but when I look for sleepers, I look at rankings and just try to find guys that are in like lower tier rankings that could finish in like the higher tier. So
right.
He's just ranked going into the game as like, I think he was like the 26th, 27th running back, and it's like, oh, he could definitely do better than that. So, but wide receiver, I went with Hunter Renfrow. He was quiet in week 1. They're playing the crappy Cardinals defense. The Cardinals are probably going to focus on Devontae Adams, leaving Renfrow open in the slot. I can't even tell you who our third corner is to cover in the slot because he's probably some no-name guy. Everyone else is hurt. So I see Renfrow in, especially, catching a lot of balls, maybe not touchdown, but he'll probably have 5 catches against the Cardinals. And then tight end, Robert Tonyan for the Packers. He was the second leading receiver for the team behind running back A.J. Dillon. That's how bad their receiving core is. But I think, the Packers, as I've said, I think are going to score a lot of points. Tonyan, even if he's still behind Dillon in the pecking order, could still have a pretty good day catching some passes, maybe a touchdown. And he's ranked pretty far down there as far as tight ends go. So those are the 4 I went with. I don't know. I'm sure you heard this when you stepped off camera. The 4 I had last week, none of them did very well. But hey, it's what that happens. I'm just
all right. I'll throw a running back in the mix for you.
All right. Who you got?
I have Melvin Gordon III.
Okay.
After last week, you saw what he did against. I didn't expect him to run as much as he did with Javonte Williams on that team. He had a ton of rushes. He was in on a lot of the plays. And they're playing after 1 week. Houston, who got their tie, is still ranked the 29th rush defense. So Melvin Gordon, according to ESPN, 78% owned, meaning there's a lot of leagues out there. Well, Melvin Gordon is not owned at all.
That's
and so if you're looking for points, Melvin Gordon is one that can get them for you.
To not even be owned. I mean, because he has like them and Javonte Williams is like a 60-40 split in favor of Javonte, I think. But so Melvin Gordon's still getting a lot of usage. He's still their goal line back, they've said. So he should be owned in leagues. Like, that's crazy. But we'll see if any of those go off. And if one does, I mean, then I get to brag about it. So that's the exciting part.
Right. And if I didn't pick any last week, so if my 2 that I'm going to pick this week go off, then I can really brag about it. So I'm going to add another tight end, and he's one you had on there last week. But that's Evan Ingram, who, where's this? I was just looking at this before I came back here. Jacksonville tight end, number 1 on the team, signed to be their first tight end. Playing Indianapolis, who we don't have a lot of high hopes for, who after 1 week is the 30th passing defense. So Evan Ingram actually might be in a good spot this week. And then on top of that, let me throw this number out there for you, for all you out there looking for a tight end. Evan Ingram is only 17% rostered in ESPN leagues. 17%.
The people have got to be playing in like 8-team leagues, and he's just sitting there. Because I can't, we play in 12-teamers.
No.
I can't imagine.
Which is why it's like, what?
Unowned. Like,
17%?
So weird. All right, I like it. We'll see next week if any of our what do we end up with now? 6 players. If any of those pop off, we'll
see
We'll
what
pat
happens
ourselves
there.
on the back. Yeah.
Well, we are kind of hitting that 2-hour mark. That's about
Perfect
an hour
timing.
over the what we shoot for. So good on us. You know, I would
I
just
thought
want
at
to
this
throw.
point we were just shooting for 2 hours. Like,
Listen, if I'm on a podcast, the odds are it's going to be 2 hours long because I just talk. And Wink, as my co-host on Shattered Order, you hear it's two friends talking, and we could probably talk for another hour about nothing, honestly.
oh yeah.
So,
I mean, we could sit here and talk about, especially like the picks or the preview for next week. Like, we could sit here and talk about them for forever. Like, but eventually we've got to stop.
yes, exactly. So, I will throw this out there. As far as our socials go, you can find us on Twitter at Coffin Corners. You can find us on TikTok at Coffin Corner Podcast. I put out a couple TikToks this week that I'm pretty proud of. If you haven't seen them, they're fun. So go check those out. As well, I think I mentioned this last week, but I'll mention it again. If you don't catch us on Twitch and you don't want to watch the VOD on Twitch, we are also on YouTube. So just search Coffin Corner Podcast. You will find us there. Same logo, same everything. I upload the videos from Twitch onto YouTube, and you can watch it there if that is your preferred place. That's such a hard word. Preferred place to watch videos. You can find us on YouTube as well at Coffin Corner Podcast. So go check all those things out. I believe that this week I'm going to work on setting us up a Discord. That way we can get some people in there and talking, give us some topics you guys want to hear about, as well as just a place where we can say, hey guys, don't forget we are here, it's Friday night, let's do this, and get everyone in here and hopefully chatting about the week, because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. So that is our socials, and as far as that goes, is there anything else you, sir, would like to say before we go?
I will just say that with the Lions and Commanders playing each other on Sunday, I'm sure both of us will be tweeting from our fan accounts. Hail Hogs for myself, HAILHOGS, and you are Den Defenders, correct?
That is right.
Yes.
At Den Defenders. I think I linked those, or at least sent a tweet about it on our podcast Twitter. So if you forget, go search the tweets. They are in there. But that's where you will find us for the morning game on Sunday. All right. With that said, everybody out there, thanks for listening. You guys are awesome. Thanks for all the support you guys show on TikTok and listening to the podcast and everything else. Last thing I will say is, if you listen to the podcast and you like what you hear on your preferred podcast listening device, don't forget to rate us, because it really helps us out, and we would love to hear what you guys think of the show. So until then, we appreciate you, and we will talk to you next week for the week 2 recap and talking about how those picks ended up with my Bears. So
I'm already starting the week off 1-0 with that one, so I like it.
all right, everybody, we'll catch you next week.
All right, bye, everyone.